Vault Cell, and I'm going to be your MC for today. I was asked to do this today because I am the trainer for Lifesavers. Many of you are probably familiar with Lifesavers. I actually was a teacher here at CCHS for 8 years back in the 90s. And during my time here as a teacher, I became an advisor of the organization and then also one of the trainers, and have trained about 35 different groups across Southern Illinois to be Lifesavers. And I do come back to the retreats every year, so any of you have applied for Lifesavers and are going to be going to the retreat this year, you will end up seeing me there, and I'll get to know you a little bit better then. But in my time as Lifesavers, of course, we dealt with a lot of different kinds of issues, teenage issues that you all face on a daily basis. And we did a lot of presentations over the years. Lifesavers have always done these kinds of things to bring awareness to issues. And the issue that your school is working on now, the initiative that you've taken on, is in addressing bullying. So we're going to have a presentation first as to what that is and what it looks like, and basically how to kind of combat it in your school environment. And then we also have a wonderful guest speaker today that we'll tell you a little bit more about later. But first off, I want to introduce to you Ms. Prudencio and Mr. Hogue, and they're going to talk to you about bullying and how it appears in your school.
Thank you, Matt. As Matt said, ladies and gentlemen, me and Ms. Prudencio today will give you some brief facts about what bullying is, how it affects you in the school building, how it affects us, and how you will see it play out over the next 2 years of high school. Okay? There's a lot of new laws that are changing to talk about bullying issues that take place in elementary schools and secondary high schools. So we want to take a brief moment to educate you all on what bullying is. So the presentation is Bullying 101, so I want you all to listen very carefully and take some notes, mental notes. So the facts, what is bullying? Bullying is the deliberate and often repeated attempt to intimidate, embarrass, or harass, or bring harm to an individual. That's what bullying is. I want you guys to remember maybe the 2 key points: deliberate and repetitive. If this is something that you're doing continually to a person to socially isolate them within a school building, bullying. At the core of bullying is an imbalance and a misuse of power. What that looks like is if I take an unflattering picture of Ms. Prudencio and I post it on my Snapchat, or let's say I post it on my Facebook. I have 250 followers. What I have then now done is allowed my 250 followers to now make negative comments about Ms. Prudencio on my Facebook. So 251 to 1 is an imbalance of power, a misuse of power. The misuse of power, how you guys may see it, is maybe when school leaders, maybe the captain of the basketball team or football team or marching band or even the flag team, decides that they're going to enroll a group of their friends to socially ostracize one individual based upon something they think is different. It could be that they don't have money, they might be poor, or they might have a lot of money, be from a very wealthy family. They may have blue hair, green hair, they may have a family structure that looks different from yours. They may have 2 moms, 2 dads. They may worship differently. They may not be a part of the majority of what you think is correct. And that is some reason where we find people to be bullied because of what a perceived difference is. Bullying is typically done by someone greater in size and stature, but not necessarily. Okay? It tends to come from people who have higher social status within the school structure. As I discussed before, our school leaders. They have a great deal of clout that they get people to enroll in attitudes. So they can project harm, meanness, to demean somebody based upon their status because they're popular. Bullying is not a normal part of adolescence. Some of you all may have heard your siblings, older siblings, even your parents say, kids or boys will be boys, girls will be girls. Nobody deserves to come to school, to show up in school and to show up in life, and to feel that they are isolated, that they are the objects of meanness. Everyone has the right to show up in the school and to be able to perform in a safe environment academically. Thank you. Whenever that ideology or that belief is sometimes stepped upon, you are in great violation of a person's human rights to be in the school. Be mindful of that. There are several types of bullying that you might see within the school. The first one I'll talk about real quickly is cyberbullying. This is where students take the platform of social media, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, other avenues on the internet, to then bully somebody to cause hurt, harm, psychologically and emotionally. Okay? Unlike bullying that takes place in the school sometimes where you might see maybe physical, the cyberbullying thing goes on forever because once you put images out there or messages out there, they stay in cyberland forever. Okay? So a person cannot escape cyberbullying once you have made them a target. An estimated 160,000 people miss school, students miss school every day due to the fear of intimidation of other students. 160,000. Okay? Victims of bullying tend to endure in silence. They suffer in silence because they feel trapped. They feel that nobody will hear them. They feel they have no voice. They feel they have nowhere to go to. Well, we're here to let you know that you do have a place to go to. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay? 1 out of every 10 students who drop out of school, and 4 years, they do so because of repeated bullying. If you guys have an orange card right now, I want you guys to stand up and be holding an orange card. I don't want anybody to talk, I just want you guys to stand. I don't want anybody to talk, I just want you guys to stand. If you guys take a look around the room, this is what this looks like. 1 out of 10 of your class don't complete high school for fear of bullying and intimidation and harassment. Thank you all, may have a seat. Again, claims that bullying is harmless or kids just being kids could be furthest from the truth. Again, nobody has to remember the adolescent school time or the high school experience as one of devastation. This is the time for you all to be in an atmosphere where you're learning to connect with people emotionally and psychologically, forming bonds. That's what the purpose of high school is for, so that we've been prepared to move on out of this building to go into the real world. But nobody should come to the school to feel like they're going to be verbally, physically, or emotionally or psychologically attacked. Ms. Prudencia is going to talk to you guys about cyberbullying. I kind of touched on it a little bit, but she'll give it to you a little bit more detail and depth.
Okay, so as we talked about a variety of the bullying, statistically what they say is this age group where you are right now, cyberbullying is the most prevalent type of bullying that happens. How many, by show of hands, own a cell phone? Raise your hands if you have a phone. Okay? So a lot of people in this room have a cell phone. That's actually the #1 avenue for bullying at this today. That's the #1 avenue is your cell phone right in your pockets. So it's a very powerful object. So I'm going to just address kind of what cyberbullying looks like. I think you guys can recognize this. It's the use of an electronic communication to bully a person, typically by sending messages of intimidating or threatening nature, sending mean messages or threats to a person's email account or to their cell phone, posting hurtful or threatening messages on social networking sites. How many of you are on social networking sites? Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat? Great, okay. Instagram, yes. Which are great sites, have a great purpose, but they become a huge avenue for cyberbullying and hate. Pretending to be someone else online to hurt another person, creating fake names, fake personas, fake everything, yes, to hurt somebody. Taking unflattering pictures, as Mr. Hope mentioned earlier, of a person and spreading that out on the internet to hurt others. So when you look at this, I want you to look at the different words, the different meanings. A lot of that is hate and hurtful phrases. I'm going to read out a few comments, and I want you to respond at the end of them, okay? So I'll ask you to raise your hand, but not until the end. If you can relate to this, I want you to think about seeing it online, you personally being a victim, your friends, or just watching what goes on the internet. If you are on one or more social networking sites, which we did do that, we already showed that by raise of hands. If you personally have seen mean comments posted online about other people on these sites, if you have ever had something mean said about you on these sites, if you can relate to this. And then I want you to be honest with yourself. I don't want you to show your hands, call anybody out, anything like that. I want you to take the time to be honest with yourself. Have you personally taken the time to share mean messages or make mean comments about a person's picture, website, page? Have you personally done that? Whether you intended to or not, have you participated in that? And then the last one is, have you intervened? Have you stepped up and took a step out there and tried to intervene when you've seen unkind things, mean messages, bullying taking place? According to the nobullying.com website, nearly 43% of kids reported being bullied online, and 1 in 4 reported having it happen over and over again. 70% of students that they did the poll report seeing frequent bullying online. So that's 70% of the kids that are polled see it happen daily. It's just a part of what they see on the internet. 68% of teens agree that cyberbullying is a huge problem. And 90% of teens who have seen social media bullying say that they ignore it. They choose not to do anything about it. They don't necessarily like it, but they don't do anything about it. But 84% have seen others tell cyberbullies to stop. In whatever format, they've tried to intervene and make it stop.
I kind of briefly talked about relational aggression earlier, what that means. We typically call it mean girl syndrome, but however, let's just be clear. This is not the act of relational aggression, that form of bullying is just not incumbent of just young ladies, also men, young men. And what that means is that this is the use of peer pressure and manipulation to intentionally ostracize somebody out of the school culture based upon what they perceive to be different. So if Ms. Prudencio and I are on the track team, we decide to ostracize a student or one of our fellow classmates because they're poor. So at every event we have, we do not welcome them in. We purposely set out to sit separate from them. We make mean comments. We ostracize them from having the same productive atmosphere that we are entitled to as high school students. They don't want to come to games or track meets or they want to join clubs because they feel like they're never support there. They feel like every time they go somewhere, the same group of people make the same meaning, derogatory comments about them because of this perceived idea that they're other. And that can be anything, as I discussed. It can be anything. If you participate in something like that, that's bullying. Again, remember, it's a misuse, an imbalance of power, it's repetitive, it's pervasive, meaning it's known throughout the school, and it's intentional. Bystanders.
We used to have a cordless one, but not now. So a bystander, I think this picture, although he has his mouth covered, says a million things just with the picture alone, but there are words. When you say nothing, you say it's okay. Next time, speak up. Silence hurts. That is the image of a bystander. Maybe not intentional, but again, the bystander sees it happen, stands by, and can allow it to happen. And when you say nothing, you're accepting that bullying is okay because you didn't intervene. And so we really want to look out into the audience today. We want you to take a look at yourself and realize that there are many bystanders in this crowd, and you have a voice, and you can stand up. And it just takes one, because who's going to follow? Many, right? When one stands up, many people will follow. Be the positive person to stand up and say, it's got to stop. You have that voice, use it.
You have a voice, as Ms. Prudencio said, use it. You have the opportunity, if you see any acts of bullying take place, to step in and confront the person. All right? If you don't feel comfortable doing that, you have Ms. Prudencio, your school counselor, an administrator, a teacher, somebody a trusted adult in the building that you feel like you can go and report it to. This is not snitching. This is looking out for somebody who potentially may want to harm themselves because they feel like they come to school, there's no support. You using your voice to say something will save a life. Remember that. If you stay silent, you perpetuate the acts of bullying. What you say is, I'm okay with that, because I didn't intervene. It could be your friend, it could be your sibling, it could be anyone. Take the initiative and the responsibility and hold yourself accountable to do what's right in the very moment. It may save somebody's life. Right here, if you guys can look on our board, I think it's... If you guys have,
staff portal, you'll see a little sign that says anonymous tip line right below the staff portal.
That's where you can go and report it. 24 hours, you can go and report the information that you know about anonymously. Me and Ms. Prudencio and I will get this information and we will investigate it. Okay? If you're going to report on this line, be serious about it. Don't go in there and make jokes. Don't go in there and play around or file false claims. We are taking these things very seriously and we want you to as well. The end of bullying starts with you. As we said before, your voice has power. Take back the power from the bullier. Step in and say something. Let them know that in Carbondale High School, you won't tolerate that. If you don't, you can find yourself the victim of bullying, and you may look around and there's nobody to support you. Support your fellow classmates. That statistic, we have 160,000 people who miss school every day for fear of harassment. We don't want that culture in our school. The only people that have the ability to stop that is you. The end of bullying begins with you guys.
It's our turn.
To step up.
To make a change.
To make a difference.
It's our turn.
To stop the bullying.
It's our turn.
To take responsibility for our actions.
And inaction.
It's our turn.
To stop the pain. Not to encourage.
To be aware.
Pass on the message.
It's our turn. To hold my friends accountable for what they post.
It's our turn.
To come together.
To speak out.
It's our turn.
To think before we type.
To think before we post.
To think before we speak.
It's our turn.
To defend others.
To include others. Not to exclude them.
It's our turn.
To build each other up.
To not tear each other down.
It's our turn.
To take action as leaders.
It's our turn.
To post positive comments instead of negative ones.
All it takes is one hello.
One wave.
One word. To make a friend.
To make someone smile. To acknowledge others.
We are a school. We are a community.
We are CCHS.
It's our turn.
To step up.
To stand up. To stop the bullying.
That was an awesome presentation that your school put together. Great video. As soon as I saw it on Facebook, I started sending it out, trying to share it with everybody that I possibly could as well. So very important to kind of touch on just quickly one of the points that they made in the presentation. You know, not coming to school is one of the least consequences of bullying. You know, someone not coming to school means that they're probably at a point where they really don't want to face anyone, and it could actually become worse. Maybe they don't want to continue on at all. Part of what Lifesavers' mission is suicide prevention. We train people in recognizing those kinds of things in people that are basically indicators that perhaps they just want to check out. They don't want to be here anymore. And a lot of times we don't understand, what we don't realize is that one joke on Facebook or that one joke on Instagram or even just some of the things we might say in the classroom, we don't know what that person's carrying around on a daily basis. And that might be that one extra thing that they realize, you know what, I just can't carry any of this anymore. It might be that one thing that sort of throws them over the edge and says, I don't even want to be around anymore, much less be in school. So we really have to kind of think of those consequences whenever we get ready to use our voice in a negative way, and then try to use that voice in a positive way to help those around us so that they can just enjoy high school and just enjoy being a teenager. One of the things that's really brought a lot of attention to bullying over the past couple of years is a television show that many of you have heard of and many of you probably watched, and that show is Glee. And our guest speaker today is someone you've probably seen in a lot of different movies or TV shows, but we probably associate her even more with this show because of the wonderful work she did as Coach Beast. Dot Jones grew up in Hillmark, California, on a farm, small town. She became a competitive athlete very early on in her high school career, playing basketball, volleyball, doing track. And at age 19, when she'd gone off to college, she decided to give it a shot and see what she could do in arm wrestling. And at age 19, with virtually no experience as an arm wrestler, she became the world champion. And did that again 14 times. So a 15-time world arm wrestling champion is who we have here today in the building with us. As a college student, she also held state and national records in shot put. She became a juvenile probation officer for 4 years after she graduated from college. But we know her best from her work in TV and movies and from the role of Coach Beast in Glee.
How dare you stand up and leave? We all wanted out of that room.
I'm sorry. I was sitting there listening to that song and I couldn't handle it. I was too embarrassed.
Why would you be embarrassed? Those girls were the ones thinking up that auditorium.
He hit me. I didn't get hurt boxing at the gym. Cooter hit me. He'd been bugging me all weekend to do the dishes, and I promised him I would, but I forgot. And then when he came home from work, I could tell he had had a few drinks, and he started yelling, and I tried to calm him down, and then he hit me. But as soon as it happened, right away, he was so sorry, and he started crying and begging me to forgive him.
Sweetheart, you're as big as a house. Why don't you just turn around and kick his ass?
I'm not a violent person.
Shannon, you have to get out of that house right now.
I can't leave him.
Why the hell not?
Because I don't think anybody else is ever gonna love me.
Shannon, listen. You're gonna stay with me tonight. Okay? If you don't have a change of clothes, I have a tent you can wear.
It is my distinct pleasure and great honor to introduce our guest speaker today, Ms. Doc Jones.
Hey guys, how you doing? Good. I love it. Are you doing good? Yeah. Are you doing real good? You sure? Okay. Well, you guys are so cute. It's still hard for me to watch that scene. I still cry. Probably one of the toughest episodes I ever did. Another form of bullying, domestic violence. Anyway, I'll get to that. Like Maddie said, I grew up in a small town in Northern California. There's like 1,500 people. It's like your town is considered small. It's like this town is giant compared to what I grew up in. And youngest of 6. 3 older brothers, 2 older sisters. I was the baby. I guess that's why it made me the youngest. And anyway, I grew up in a small town. I grew up on a farm, and my dad died when I was 10. So my mom worked her butt off so that we could keep our farm. And it was hard because we didn't have a lot. We had enough. I didn't know that we didn't have a lot because we always had food. And we had milk in the morning for cereal. It was 12 and a half, had to milk cows in the morning before we caught the bus at 7:30 to go to school. And then yeah, sure, it is real. It is real. It's a true story. And anyway, so we did what we did. We had to get through and to get by. And in 8th grade, I went from 5'6" to 6'1", which, like, a lot of people have pain in their knees, and I had it in my back. In fact, I fractured my back from growing really fast. So, anyway, I was, like, nervous to go to school because I felt like a freak, because I was 6'1" in 8th grade. And people would like look at me like there was something wrong with me, or like I had stayed back 4 years, you know? So it was hard because I would slouch and I wouldn't want people to, like, I didn't want to stand out. Some people want to stand out. They're loud and obnoxious, or they, talk over people while they're talking, and they think it's okay. Or they thought they were better than me because I had old clothes and holy jeans, but I had it. And my mom always told me, you stand up straight. That way everybody will have to look up to you. And I never got that then. To me, I was like, I just wanted to fit in and to be okay at school and to be okay with myself. And at the end of going into freshman in high school, I started working out and lifting weights because of how bad my back was. I had to get stronger because it would kill me every morning to stand up. And to stand up straight, I'd have to stand up straight in a doorway to stand myself up. But I started working out. I got really strong. And the coaches loved that because I was in sports. And so I actually got bullied by one of my coaches. Yeah, she she was one of those coaches that I call them grunts, where there's like the one person and they make the other people do something for them because they would never do it. And she says to me, she said, Jones, go sit on her, because she was mad at one of the other volleyball. It was during volleyball season. I said, what? I said, I'm not going to do that. She said, get your ass over there and sit on her or you're going to run. I was like, oh my God. And it's like, if I knew then what I know now, there'd be a whole big difference. And it's one of those things that you don't think it's ever going to end. And I'm 51 years old now, and I still feel like I get bullied, especially after being on Glee. It's one of those things that people don't get it. They want to pick on somebody because they're different. They want to pick on somebody because of, I don't know, any reason that makes them, picking on somebody makes them feel good. So God, it's really hard. There's so many experiences and times that just made me mad because people, unless you know me, and you know, you don't judge a book by its cover, that old cliche, but it's true. And there's a lot of times during high school where I just wanted to go away because I was tired of people, the so-called popular girls would pick on me because, you know, they had money and they think that that gives them the right to be mean or whatever, or because they had nicer things. And I was just trying to get through school. Because the only thing we should worry about when we're in high school is having fun and getting through it. And that's all any of you all should worry about, is having fun and getting through it. And we're all different. Every single one of us is different. And how boring would that be if we weren't? Right? So it's in college. I had, like, somebody asked a question last period. They asked if anybody ever had my back, and that was a great question. And in high school, I think I hid it, and a lot of us do, is we hide it because we don't want to look weak. We don't want our friends to think that, you know, we can't handle something. So we just like play it off like it's no big deal, but inside it's just eating you up. And in college, I was on the track team at Fresno State, and my size and my strength is what got me a scholarship to Fresno State, or I wouldn't have been able to go to college. And my friends there, it was the first time I ever felt that, other than my mom telling me, you know what, you don't let anybody tell you no. You just do what you do. And it was an awesome feeling. It felt like, you know, it was that family, because sometimes our chosen family, our friends, we call them our family. Our chosen family we're closer to sometimes than our real family. And it was awesome in college because it was like somebody finally said, you know what, don't let them bother you. You're all right. You're okay. And they're the ones that are the weak ones because they have to say something mean to make somebody feel bad, to make themselves feel better. And I'm glad I had that, because in college I got to the point where I'd start saying something smart back if somebody said something. And that's, you don't want to be a bully back, so you don't do that. Thank you. And so I'm here not to spew to you my life story. I'm here to let you know that, you know, you can prevail. You can, if you're having a hard time, get away from those people. If you're having a hard time with yourself, surround yourself by people who love you and care about you. And they don't have to say it in those words, but you know what I mean. Somebody's not going to put you down for who you're dating, who you're not dating. You know what I mean? People don't have to talk smack. They gotta make themselves feel better because of what they can't maybe deal with. So it's all about being okay with yourself. And like I said, I'm 51 years old, I'm 6'3", and I'm 255 pounds. And I still have days where I'm like not comfortable in my skin. And it takes every day is a choice. Every day is a choice to get up and say, you know, I'm going to kick ass today. And I'm not going to let anybody bother me. I'm not letting anybody under my skin. I'm going to own it. And even in acting, it's like you show up on a set or something, and like if I'm doing a guest star, like I'm on one episode. Well, they've already been filming all year, and I come on the set, and I'm like the new kid in school. Everybody, if they don't know me, they're like, you know, they're sizing you up. It's like, I just came here to have fun, and to get paid, and then have fun doing it. But more importantly, get paid. Unfortunately, you don't get paid to go to high school. But it's all about having fun, and I love that video. You kids who made that video did a beautiful job. And I know one thing that I still try to practice. You don't know what someone's going through. You don't know if somebody has a really bad life at home. You don't know if they're dealing with stuff at school with somebody, a boyfriend, girlfriend, an ex, if they're going through domestic violence. It happens as young as you guys, younger. I've seen it. And that's why that episode was hard for me, because I had a family member that went through domestic violence. And it took everything I could to get through that episode. And the creator sent me the script, and he called me, Ryan Murphy. He's the one who created like Nip Tuck, and he did American Horror Story and Scream Queens now, but he created Glee. And he called me and he said, are you okay with this script? And I said, because we had never talked, he didn't know my experience. So like I said, you don't know what somebody's gone through. You don't know what someone's going through. And I said, yeah, I will be. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yeah. I said, it's just a little close to home. And it took me 3 days to read the script, because I started reading it, and the scenes in it were like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. I was like bawling, and it took me, like I said, 3 days to get through the script, because every time I'd pick it up, I'd start at the beginning and get to that one part again. That scene especially is one of the hard ones, and then the scene where I tell them I'm leaving, and it was tough. And it was because it was personal to me. Because that, I don't want to say struck a nerve, but it struck an emotional nerve. And it's one of those things that you think the saying, it gets better. It does get better, but it's because of how you deal with it that it gets better, and it's a choice you make. Nobody owns the right to make you feel bad about you, about your family, about where you come from, about what you look like, and about what your choices you make. Because all of us have that right. Oh, God, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm a big crybaby. See, like she said, you're big as a house, you could whoop his ass. I'm still a big crybaby in the real. And so I'm just here to say, you know what? Get you a good squad. And I have a 15-year-old. I know a few lingo. and just, you know what? Be kind to somebody. Say hi to somebody. Like a new kid in the hallway. That's got to be terrifying. I went from kindergarten through high school. And the kindergarten, elementary, junior high, and high school was on one piece of property. That's how small our town was. So we knew everybody. But when a new kid would come to move into town, you'd see they would be terrified. That's got to be a terrifying experience, especially young, and your guys' age. So just, you know what? You get a lot more props by being a decent person and being nice. I'm not saying kissing up to somebody, but just say hi. That could change somebody's day, because like I said, you don't know what they're going through or what they've been through. And I don't know, you guys are an awesome group of kids. All the classes I've seen today are amazing. And I don't know what any of you have been through. All I can do is tell you that, Lifesavers is an amazing group, and if you need to reach out to somebody, Amy's amazing, and the girls and the guys that I've met through Lifesavers are a group of kids that I wish I had. And I wish they were throughout the country, because for kids to worry about harming themselves and the rate of suicide, that's ridiculous. Think about it. And they gave us stats as to how many drop out. Look at the poor kids that didn't think they had an option, that dropped out of life. That's what breaks my heart. And I thank God you guys are here. And I commend you all on the jobs you're doing. And I think it's amazing. And hopefully a lot more of you will join in with these guys, because what they're doing is positive and it's awesome. And I'm going to ask Matt to open it up for questions. And if anybody has a question, I just want to thank you for listening to me ramble on. And I love you guys. Thank you.
Okay, we have some questions for Doc. Yeah, right over here.
Louis. Did I hear that right? Oh, I thought he...
Little Win. How do you deal with the pressure of your body in a society that promotes a specific body type?
You mean I in an hourglass? I'm joking. I'm more like a 3-hour glass. I'm teasing. You know what? It's hard. It's still hard sometimes because, you know, the stereotypical is, you know, this tiny little figure, and I ain't got a tiny little figure. I got a go figure. Because it's like, what the hell? And but if I dealt with it because of the opportunities that being this stature gave me. Whether you're 5 foot tall or 7 foot tall or 4 foot tall, right on. That's awesome. And look at you, you're beautiful. Be proud of what God gave you, baby. He gave you that body for a reason. And it's up to us to figure out what we do with it. Just do something good. And good for you. Any questions, sweetheart?
Any other questions? Yeah, over here.
How did you deal with the expectations put on you because of your participation in sport?
I think it, like I was saying earlier, in earlier classes, the expectations put on you in sports is, one thing I stress is if you have a problem or you get hurt, whether you run track, play baseball, play football, whatever, if you feel hurt in any way, get it fixed and get it to a doctor. Don't let them just tape you up and get you back on the field. Because I've had 12 knee surgeries. I have a prosthetic knee. I've had a shoulder surgery and I'm having a prosthetic shoulder put in this shoulder in December because I can't raise my arm past that because of years of working out. And when I had injuries, I just was like, the coach would either say, come on, you're going to play or you're going to be a big wuss and sit on the bench. That was bullying. And she didn't help me because I'm 51 years old and I can't raise my arms over my shoulder. You know, I can if I force it up, but it starts to, you know, so take care of you is what I always say. And I mean that in every sense of the word, emotionally, physically, and mindfully. Just, you know, take care of yourself.
All right, can we get some other questions? Yes, sir, over here.
Okay. What's it called, honey? Broken but still standing. You are amazing. That is amazing. I'm proud of you. Because you know what? There's adults that don't think about doing things like that, sweetie. And another thing is that, you know, there's bad and good with the general, you know, the media and are you guys on Twitter or are you guys on Facebook or? Good for you. Well, I think that's great because social media can be bad or it can be good because I was blown away by how many women and young girls and even a few guys that contacted me after they saw that episode of Glee that said, thank you so much for doing that episode because it gave them strength to get out of the bad relationship. And I'm like, God, you don't think about, like I say, how powerful words are. Words are powerful. You got to be careful how you use them and how you mean them to sound, because people can construe it and turn it around, especially on the internet. They'll change it up, and then it makes you sound like you're being the bully. But please keep doing what you're doing. That's fantastic. That's awesome. Good on you.
We got another question over here.
I love you too, pussycat. Thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you. So cute. Thank you.
And just so you know, this is not just because she's on stage. This is how she entered the room last night. Hey, sweetie, I'm Dot. Hey, honey, I'm Dot. It was just like as soon as she walked in, you didn't have to be nervous at all, because she's just as genuine down here as she is up here. So thank you for that comment. We got one over here.
I love what you said. Oh. Did you watch it? That's a funny movie.
Rick?
Oh, that's a really good question.
She said,
What message?
what message would you have for your teen self looking back now?
Cliche. It gets better. You know? And don't let anybody interfere with your dreams or your drive, and go where you want to go. And it's like I have a friend who's, her daughter wanted to get into acting, and she's a teenager, and her dad told her she had no business doing that. How are you going to crush your kid's dream? You know what I mean? And it's like, I would just say, don't let anybody interfere with your drive and where you're going and where you want to be. I never in my life thought I'd be here right now. And I didn't start acting until I was 27. So I got lucky. I got really lucky. And I know I'm lucky, because I know there's 5,000 women that would take my spot in 5 seconds. So I'm blessed and very lucky. Let's go.
I'm just going to tag on to that just a second, though. Dot says she's lucky, but the opportunities that presented themselves, she actually stepped up and took those opportunities and made something of it. So, you know, we don't have to be lucky in life. We just have to be observant, and we have to have the gumption to go for it, and that's what she did. That's why she's here today. So.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome to Circle. Back here. Yes, way back there. You were the very, very last one. She's like, me? Yes,
oh,
you.
Hi, sweetie. Here's an example. I didn't realize it till later. Whenever she asked when everybody was putting me down, what kept my motivation. Once I won that world title at 19, I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. How lucky am I? And one of the women who I beat at the World Championship, it was only my second tournament. And one of the women who I beat, she was this big girl, probably about, not quite 6 foot, but probably about 350 pounds. And I beat her, and I still didn't know what I was doing. I was strong from lifting weights and from being a shot putter and in other sports. And she turned around and told somebody in the media that she got beat by a transvestite. Oh. Just because I said, how about you just got your butt whooped? You know what I mean? And so it's like people try to beat you down, and it's like, you know what? She can say what she wants. I took that trophy home. You know what I'm saying? I love you guys. I'm taking you high.
Okay, we have
That's a good question.
another question over here.
I think I'm dealing with the death of our co-star. When we lost Corey, I was actually on a vacation with my family, and I got the call. And July 13th, 2 years ago. And Corey he'd had a rough life. His single mom, he had been in and out of juvenile hall and stuff as a kid. He was 30 years old when he passed away. He got into drugs and hung out with guys that weren't really supportive. And so he ended up doing juvenile hall, because we used to talk about it all the time, because I used to work in juvenile hall in lockdown for 4.5 years in Fresno after college. And I would tell Corey, God, you're just like some of my kids. And they were good kids. They were just put in a really bad situation. And for Corey, you know, he had been sober. He had gone to so many different clinics and to do sobriety and to get clean that he slipped, you know. And to be honest, he didn't have that much drugs, not that it takes much drugs, in his system, and it just breaks my heart that he died alone, you know? Because he was a hell of a kid. I say kid because he was like a kid. He was 30 years old, playing a high school senior. But to me, they're all kids because I'm old. And but I still think we're dealing with it, you know? And hopefully a lot of kids learned from it that, you know, there's places to get help, and you don't put yourself back in a situation where people aren't supportive. It's like if you were doing drugs with all these guys, you don't want to get clean and sober and then go back and hang out with those guys because you're just going to be tempted to use again. And unfortunately, I think that's what happened with him. And like I said, we're still coping with it, you know? You don't get over it, you just hopefully learn from it and pass that on. That's a good question. Yes, sir. I want you. You know what? The most I could bench was 350. My big thing was, and I say that like it was a lot of weight, but I was over 200 pounds. And now if I was 150 and said I benched 350, that'd be a lot. But my big thing was deadlift. You know deadlift? I would have had, at 19, I would have had a world record in deadlift, but it wasn't a sanctioned meet. It was at a meet, like an exhibition type deal. And I deadlifted 518.
So, I know we have other questions, things, but we really need to wrap it up because we only got about a minute for lunch for the bell ring. The bell already rang, so let's give a big round of applause, please, to that. Thank you all so much for being a great audience. Have a great rest of your day.